Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another Tuesday Cruiser Chat with Otram. Same as usual, I don't have any planned topics for this evening, just whatever questions you guys have. Trying to think if there's any big news at the shop. It looks like the guys that are renting the other half of the building are going to be out in the next couple of weeks, so we'll be taking over the other side of the building soon, which will be nice. We'll have much needed space, and we'll have the room to start looking for a third tech to try to help ease the backlog. So that's big and new and exciting. I'll be here next Tuesday for Tuesday Chat, but the following Tuesday, which is I think the 16th, there won't be chat because I'll be in Portugal for the week on vacation. But we'll be back the following week as long as I'm not super jet lagged. Trying to think if there's anything else going on. The Project Shady 80 shop truck is kind of at a standstill at the moment. I've been picking up small pieces and parts here and there to start working on it. We just haven't had the time, as busy as we've been. And with getting ready to take over the other half of the shop and our rent doubling, haven't really had the funding to work on the shop 80 lately. A couple of people had asked about pitching in for parts on the shop 80 to try to get that built faster and more videos around the shop 80 done more quickly. So enough people asked that I put up a donation to the shop 80 link on our website, and there's a link down in the description below. Yeah, trying to think. I think that's the only real news. So just whatever you guys have as far as cruiser questions, I'm all ears. Yeah, I'm out of things to talk about. Oh, and thanks, Art. Yeah, we've been needing to expand for a while, and it's been in the works for a couple of months. So yeah, we're really excited that it's finally going through. And we use a ton of terrain tamer parts. That's generally what we use for knuckle rebuilds, trans T-case rebuilds. We've used their Burfields, brakes. We've used quite a lot of their stuff, and it's really nice. Japanese bearings, Japanese seals. I'm pretty sure Japanese gaskets, although they're not marked. But yeah, super nice and really complete kits. And George and Ward over at Cruiser Brothers are awesome to deal with for getting stuff. Their berths look super nice. They feel nice. I guess the oldest set we've installed now is probably 2 years old. So I don't have any super long-term info on them, but we haven't had any problems. Nobody's come back, reported clicking berths or, anything funky like that. But yeah, we've been super happy with them. I actually need to call George tomorrow and order a couple of knuckle kits and a transfer case kit for some trucks that are at the shop. Well, and a knuckle kit for the shop truck. So I've got it on hand for whenever I get a chance to start working on it. And I got to decide if I'm going to do Burfields while I'm in there. I'm tempted to get a set of RCV chromolyes while I've got it all apart, because I'm sure the axle shafts that are in there and the Burfields that are in there are original and at 340,000 miles. they're probably not going to like me beating on them. So I may replace those while I've got it all apart. Can I compare regearing axles versus lower transfer case gears? So generally, the way we look at it, uh, if you've already got lockers, like e-lockers or ARBs, like your diff's already locked, and you don't want to go in there again, we do it at the transfer case, because it's easier. It's one gear set that you don't have to set the mesh pattern on. You're only opening up the transfer case, and you're keeping the stronger, factory Toyota 410 gears in the differentials. So if somebody's already locked, we generally go transfer case gears. If somebody is open and is looking to install lockers and gears, then it becomes a toss up, and a lot of times then we'll do gears in the axles. The gears in the transfer case, like the underdrive high range gears, won't get you quite as low as, say, like a 488 or a 529. I want to say the math works out that they're like a 456, but I'm not exactly positive. But we've done them on quite a few trucks running, between 33s and 35s, and everybody's been happy. The plan for the shop truck is to do underdrive high range and lower low range gears, since it's already got factory lockers. I really like the option of doing it at the transfer case and just opening up one case. And Tulsa Mike wants to know how to check the coolant temp sensor on a 94 Cruiser. In the factory manual, there's like a range of resistances. It'll be like at 40 degrees, it should be this resistance. At 200 degrees, it should be this resistance. We just watch it on the scan tool, and we know, hey, the truck's been sitting overnight. It should be around 60 degrees because that's what it is outside. And we make sure that the temp matches on the scan tool, and then we run the truck up to temperature to open the thermostat, and we check it again, with an infrared temp gun, and then compare that to the scan tool. Without a scan tool, you've got to go through and check resistances, which is much more tedious. And Alex, what are the pros and cons of air lockers versus e-lockers? I am a big proponent of e-lockers. I hate dealing with the failed O-rings in air lockers. They seem to, always leak after a couple of years, and then you got to go back into the diff and deal with the O-rings. Where the e-locker, it's just an electric wire going in there. And if you cut the wire, break the wire, it's an easy enough to patch. Air lockers were great when that was the only option, and they're still great lockers. They just seem to take more maintenance as far as going in and dealing with the O-rings. So for that reason, I like the e-lockers better. And then Lawrence wants to know, what rust proofing or undercoating do you recommend? Absolutely do not undercoat it. Undercoat, like the heavy rubberized stuff, it seems to traps salt, moisture, and dirt in pockets behind the undercoat. And then you get rust building up underneath of it, and you can't see it happening in time to do anything about it, because the undercoat not only holds the rust, but also hides it. We've got a bunch of customers that use fluid film, and they spray it on the undercarriage every couple of years. And the fluid film, the guys that are using it locally, it makes a huge difference. It wicks into all the joints, all the seams, and just does a great job of sealing out moisture and corrosion. It smells terrible when you're spraying it and for the first couple of days afterwards, but it seems to work fantastic. Yeah, it's we've got several local folks using it, and it really works well. You can tell a definite difference, between the guys that have the fluid film, and other trucks that have been in the area for the same amount of time. I'm sure you can probably find places that will spray fluid film. You can get it on Amazon. Um, Jamie must have better auto parts stores than we do because I have never seen it locally. I get it from Amazon when I need it. It seems like the guys that do it every year or two. I don't have any personal vehicles with it on there, so I don't have a good timeline for it, but it seems like they're doing it every year, maybe two. Yeah, LPS is also good stuff. We just don't have ready access to the LPS unless I order it. I've got some of their other products, and it's great. I'm gonna have to check our Advance to see if they've got the gallon cans of it because I've never seen fluid film in there. Yeah, I'll have to check because I've never seen it, so I'm gonna have to go look because that'd be much easier than ordering it online. If it's behind the counter, that's why. We've got a commercial account with them, so yeah, we do online orders, but their website's terrible to navigate from the commercial side, so you can never find what you're looking for, and unless you know it's there, you're never gonna find it. So I'll have to call in and check on it. I'm not sure what's up with this Kyle Weir guy, but we're gonna get rid of him. I haven't washed and reused an 80 series air filter. I've seen that you can. We've just never messed with it. On an 80 series, you can't really check for U-joint play on the ground the way the I'm going brain dead. The way the transfer case with the viscous coupling loads them. You've got to lift one tire on each end off the ground to be able to feel the play in the U-joints. We've been tricked a couple of times trying to do it on the ground, and the drive line loads up enough that you can't feel play. Awesome, thanks. Yeah, we've been slacking on putting videos out lately. We haven't had anything like new and exciting come through to do videos about. Hopefully I'll get, a few videos out of the shop truck 80 because it needs a ton of work. But yeah, everything's been just same old, same old. work lately, so nothing new to video. And it doesn't have to be opposite wheels. Like you could do both passenger front, passenger rear. And like if you're checking the rear, you only have to have the rear off the ground. And if you're checking the front, you only have to have the front off the ground. Like you don't have to do both at the same time. You just have to unload the end that you're checking. And yeah, as much as the pesky heater hose is terrible to replace, at least it's not a head gasket. I mean, the head gaskets aren't terrible, but I don't enjoy doing them. Any videos on valve cover gasket replacement? I haven't done one. Nothing super hard about it, or anything insanely different. Just don't over tighten the valve cover gasket bolts. You just tighten them down enough that the valve cover touches the head. Be careful when you're pulling them. The back ones, for some reason, like to break. But yeah, it's I'm assuming on an 80 series, you just take the throttle body off, pull the throttle body off, take the valve cover off, new gasket, reseal the little half moons, and you're good to go. I kind of sort of show doing it in the 80 series head gasket video, but I don't go in depth. That is a video I should make, and we do it often enough. I'll have to remember next time I'm in there to shoot a video. A343F rear slip. Unfortunately, we don't do auto trainee work at the shop. So I've never dug into them. We've swapped them out, but I've never dug into the trans. Other than making sure your fluid's in good shape and full, we really haven't dug into them. Any tips on power steering fluid change for shade tree mechanic? We just use like a turkey baster and pull it out of the reservoir as much as we can, fill the reservoir up, run it for a bit, keep cycling it like that, and eventually you get a pretty good swap. You can do the gig where you pull the lines loose and spray it into a bucket while you pour more in the top, but you run the risk of running the pump dry doing it that way and causing more damage than just old fluid would. So we just suck it out and exchange it a little bit at a time. And as far as my recommendation for automatic transmission maintenance, generally we just drain and fill them. We don't do any kind of power flushing on them. Just drain them, fill them, use a good quality fluid and the proper fluid for whichever trans you're running. But we don't get super in depth with them. I rebuilt one automatic transmission years ago and vowed to never ever do it again. As far as the interval for the trans maintenance, I'd check the owner's manual. I can never remember it off the top of my head because it changes so often. But yeah, the owner's manual should give you how often to change it. And to bear, yeah, I haven't seen the e-lockers unlock when you go in reverse. That's got to be the hair-ups because the factory ones don't. And yeah, I've only done one set of the TJM Pro lockers, but I liked how they had the little pistons instead of using the O-rings that spin. It was a pretty nice setup. But yeah, I haven't seen the e-lockers uh, unlock in reverse. But I guess some of them use those ramped ball bearings to lock. And art, uh, we we generally just drain and fill. We don't pull the pan. Um, I did it once years ago, and the filter isn't really a filter. It's more of like a screen. Um, and I changed one once, and I haven't done it since. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it couldn't hurt to change it. But it's kind of one of those things. If you're not really experiencing problems, I wouldn't go in looking for them. Yeah, I've heard great things about the wholesale automatics valve bodies. We've only had one truck. We had a 62 come through that had one, and it was super nice. And Eli, have you had seen the issue in automatic 80s where in reversing out of a rut or something, there'd be a loud screech as you apply the throttle? I have not. I'm trying to think what would cause that. I can't think of anything trans-wise unless it was like really slipping that would cause a loud screech. Yeah, that sounds like you've got something slipping. Um, what your truck? I don't know of anybody that builds the automatic transmissions other than wholesale automatics in Australia. And a 97. Okay, well that blows that theory out of the water. I was thinking maybe it was an early 80s series and your drive flanges were stripping out. Um, yeah, I mean, it could maybe be the viscous coupling in the trans slipping or the transfer case slipping, uh, or something in the trans itself slipping, but I haven't run across that yet. And it otherwise drives down the road. Everything's okay. Yeah, the only trucks we've had come through the shop that had issues with reversing uh, had been run super low on fluid and had smoked the clutches. But they were bad enough that they weren't. They you could feel it going down the road. It slipped. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't run across that yet, so I haven't dug into looking for a reason. There's like a whole flock of cardinals right outside my window that keep catching my eye because they're bright red. There was something else, and I need to start writing down the things that I'm going to talk about because I know there was something else I was going to talk about, and I can't remember what it was. Um, Complete 4-inch lift kit for an 80 series. The most common we do are just the 2.5-inch old man emus. Trying to think. I think slinkies are a 3-inch, but they might be a 4-inch. Um, but nobody really sells a complete 4-inch kit, at least as far as I've seen. It's you get springs, you get shocks, you get you know control arms. Everything's kind of a la carte. Huh. I didn't know Slee made a 4-inch. See, I need to go check out their website more often. I've been looking at the Slinky and Icon stuff a bunch lately, and it's all a la carte. Like, you just pick all the random pieces that you need um, to make a kit. And to Eric, we had a 200 in a couple of weeks ago just for a radiator. I think that's the only 200 we've had in since yours. We don't see them super often. Yeah, sure enough, Slee does have a very complete 4-inch lift. Um, that looks like a sweet setup. Uh, um, Adding an inch spacer on top of 3-inch heavy coils, you're gonna start riding that line of caster correction becoming an issue, and also drive shaft angles, especially in the front. Um, you're gonna start getting to where you're probably gonna need a double cardan shaft. Uh, so it's gonna people do it, but you start getting into issues when you go much over the 3-inch without changing other stuff as well. And to Todd, lately we do always do the bushings with the Omani 2.5s. We've done a couple without doing them, and you can really feel it on the roads, especially the ones around the shop. I don't know if it's the way they crown them or just the potholes. Uh, but yeah, you can feel it even on the 2.5-inch. So we always do them, unless for some reason the customer just doesn't want us to do the caster bushings. And I don't know of good sources for Rock Warrior wheels. I know people are getting them because we see lots of trucks coming through with them, but I've never gone shopping for them. I would assume Toyota's got them, but I'd imagine there's also cheaper sources. Yeah, shipping on wheels can be a pain since they get, it's easy to ding them up. And yeah, I've only seen the Rock Warriors in 5 lug, but Eric's truck is 5 lug, so that works. Yeah, finding Rock Warriors cheap and somebody willing to ship is going to be the fun part. Um, I would only 3-link if it's a trail only truck. Um, 3-link isn't going to be, it's not a bolt on, do it in a day in your garage kind of gig. It's cutting, welding, and building everything from scratch. Unless you get like a 4-wheel underground kit. I'm not even sure if they're still making them, but they used to have a nice kit. Uh, but the 3-link is really involved. And, if it's a rock crawling truck, yeah, you get crazy flex, and they can be made to handle on the road. Um, but it's really involved. My Forerunner is 3-linked front and rear on 80 series axles. And while you can drive it on the road and you can drive it at highway speeds, um, it can get kind of crazy with side winds or anything like that. Uh, but part of that's because I don't have the links right in the back. I've got too much anti-squat and too much rear steer. Uh, but it works great on the trail, so I've never bothered to fix it. Uh, but yeah, like it's super apples and oranges going from like a bolt-on lift kit to a 3-link. You're changing everything. Like 3-link done right is thousands and thousands of dollars unless you're building it yourself. I'll have to look into the Harrops unlocking in reverse. I'd heard something about them unlocking, but I thought it was they unlocked when you switch directions, but then relocked. Uh, but I could be wrong because I've never super looked into it. Okay, yeah, I've only driven the Harrops in the parking lot, locking them in our gravel lot to make sure they work. I haven't actually wheeled on a set of them. You you might be able to build a 3-link that would, improve on road. Um, but usually it's a compromise. You build it for on road or you build it for off road. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it just depends on what you want to do with it. And thanks for tuning in, Jamie, and thanks for answering questions. And there's probably been, a vast improvement in shock and spring design for the 3-links since I built mine eons ago. I think I did the 3-link in my Forerunner. God, it's been almost 20 years ago. The 4.7 does seem to be a pretty bulletproof motor. We haven't seen any die, and we've got a couple of them coming through with over 300,000 on them. And we've seen a couple break timing belts and be fine. I've heard of them like dropping cylinders, like getting low compression in one cylinder, but we haven't seen it in the shop yet. Uh, Everything we've seen, they've been great. Um, it probably wouldn't hurt to change the trans fluid. I wouldn't do like a flush with a flush machine. I would just drain what's in there and fill it back up. It's like 6 or 7 quarts in the pan to drain and fill. And do that maybe a couple of times, and that'll get you mostly good fluid. Uh, the only problem is at 280,000, you're pretty high mileage. You can be rolling the dice. If you change it up some, you always run into the issue of you could make something unhappy changing the fluid. I guess it depends on what your fluid looks like. If it's still good and red in color, I'd probably leave it be. Um, if it's getting syrupy and dark brown or black looking, I'd change it out. Yeah, I mean the 4.7, those seem to go forever. As long as you keep timing belts in them, timing belts and water pumps. The Shady 80 fund is very low. Uh, I was talking about it at the beginning of chat. With taking over the other side of the shop and our rent doubling because of it, uh, there is no funding for the Shady 80 right now. And that's what a couple of people had asked about, a donation page for the Shady 80 to get the videos put together faster with more parts. So I did put a donation page on our website, and there's a link down below. But so far, nothing. The Shady 80 is a slow moving project. Um, yeah, and to Dicky, for 99% of the people out there, a bolt on lift on an 80 series or an LX 450 is, going to be all you need. The 3 link is, just a ton more work, a ton more maintenance, but they can be awesome. As far as other things I recommend, it seems like all 80s need the oil pump cover seal, and front main seal. They seem to all need a valve cover gasket. Other than that, make sure all your fluids are good. Make sure your wheel bearings and brakes are all good. And just drive it and see what comes up. Give it a really good going over and check everything. But we tell most of our customers with new rigs, baseline the fluids and just drive them for a while to check for gremlins before you really go hog wild in modifying them. Which that's the stage the Shady 80 shop truck is at right now. We've been going through the fluids. I rebuilt the rear axle and brakes, and now I either need to start doing engine oil leaks or rebuild the front axle before I get into lift and bumpers and gears and all that jazz. But they're generally pretty stout trucks, and as long as they haven't been abused, they seem to hold up well. Which is why I I didn't really blink when I bought one with 340 some thousand miles on it. Because for what we want it for at the shop, it's still going to be a great truck. We're not going to daily driver the thing. It's just going to get built to go wheeling. So I just bought an 80 series with like 340 some thousand on it. But I haven't really started driving it yet because it's got so many safety issues. My daily driver is a Subaru Forester that I paid $200 for with blown head gaskets. I think it's got 215,000 on it. My Forerunner has got like 250 or 270 on it, but it's a trail rig now and doesn't really get driven. And the Prius is like 120. I'm not sure what the Camry has on it, but the Camry has a blown up motor, so it doesn't count anymore. Oh, I don't think you want to be anywhere near in parallel with the Shady 80. It is terrible, but it's going to be a fun project and should be fodder for a lot of videos. Yeah, like I was trying to get the rear locker to lock so I could pull the axle shaft through the rear wheel bearings, and it wouldn't lock. So I decided to try the front. Front wouldn't lock either. And I looked underneath; it doesn't even have a front drive shaft. Like, there's like so many odd, random things wrong with the Shady 80. It's one of those, where do you even start? Yeah, I think we've got labor covered on the truck. Crash and I were talking about it. If we like hit it hard for 2, maybe 3 weekends, we could build the truck. Uh, it's just a matter of getting all the parts and working through all the bugs. I'm hoping now that we're moving and getting the other half of the building that I can just leave the Shady 80 in and mess with it, here and there when I've got time. And yeah, the shop truck, definitely owner neglect. I'm guessing it was a high school kid's car, judging by the stereo install and just the randomness of a lot of stuff. Uh, it's got good bones. The frame's got a lot of surface rust, but nothing perforating yet. The body's got some rust holes in it, but I don't really care because we're just going to plasti dip it, either orange or blue. It seems to be a lot more neglected than the average 80 series that comes through. And just weird stuff done to it. But it'll be a good project. And I finally got an 80. I've been wanting an 80 series for forever. And I bought half of one years ago to rob the axles out of for my Forerunner. But I've never had a complete 80. And it's funny, for as many Land Cruisers as we work on at the shop, this is only the second cruiser I've ever had. I've always had Forerunners and pickups and Toyota cars. I had a 60 series a couple of years ago that I sold to Crash, and then he wheeled it for a couple of years, and then he sold it. So now I'm back to owning a Land Cruiser. It felt kind of odd having a Land Cruiser shop and then not actually owning a Land Cruiser. We never got the diesel engines here, so I know absolutely nothing about them. So unfortunately, I don't know about the EGR suppression on them. Yeah, the high idle is fairly normal on pretty much all the trucks. They high idle them to get the oil flowing and everything moving around until and I think it's there to help the oxygen sensors warm up and come online faster as well. But yeah, it's normal for them to idle, low to mid thousand or teen thousands. I'm going brain dead, and then drop down. Uh, get lights dimming in and out on the stock radio and AC controls. AC heat works, so I'm not sure where to start. That is a good question. Does it also dim out on the dash, your gauge cluster and that? Like, does everything dim at the same time, or is it only like the radio and AC controls? Because I'm trying to think, because there's more than one light bulb in there. I guess it could be just a loose connection on the gauge lighting wire that goes back there. Yeah, I'm trying to think. You may have like a bad connection just on the wire, like wherever feeds the backlighting light bulbs. That would be my guess. If the gauge was doing it too, I was going to guess the dimmer rheostat. And you're lucky that your AC controls and heat actually work. In the shop truck, none of it lights up, none of it does anything, but the fan randomly turns on and off. Cool. And thanks for tuning in, Eric. We'll catch you later. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about the wholesale automatic stuff. Cruiser Brothers is starting to bring more of their stuff into the States. So it'd be cool to start seeing more of that get installed. Trying to think what else would make the dash cluster go funky on. I'm sure Rodney's busy. Yeah, the only ones we've seen that slipped in reverse were low on fluid, but I'm sure there's other causes for it as well. Yeah, if your power steering fluid is clear, I would swap that out for Dex 3 ATF. We've also had really good luck when somebody's put clear power steering fluid in with sucking it out and using the Lucas power steering stop leak. It seems to be like a thicker version of ATF. So it kind of seems to counteract the the thinness of the clear fluid. I was trying to look up the wiring diagram for the radio, but I'm not having luck with figuring out which of the wires is the lighting. We usually just do it in cycles. We'll suck it out with a turkey baster, refill it, run it a bit, suck it out, refill it, run it a bit. And, after a couple of go rounds, you can, generally get a good amount of it out. I was saying, or I think it was earlier today, I don't really like the, drain it and fill it while the truck's running. Like people undo a hose and put it in a drain bucket and try to fill it up because you run the risk of running air through the pump doing it that way. So we just, turkey baster it in cycles. You guys need to go outside? Is that what you want? Okay. You going out? No, leave that alone. Dogs are going crazy about something in the backyard. Yeah, whatever you do, though, I would try to get as much of the clear out because that seems to be what kills the pumps. AC button stays partially glowing when deselected. That does help because it shouldn't be glowing. So I wonder if you've got a short somewhere and you're either backfeeding ground through the AC light. I guess if you have a bad ground, you might be backfeeding that way and keeping that light lit. I'll have to look at the shop and see if we've got a more in-depth wiring diagram. I just looked up the one on Tech Info, and it doesn't give a super detailed diagram of how the illumination is laid out in there. But yeah, if you've got a bad ground or a short, you could be backfeeding through the AC button. I'm trying to think if there's an easy way to check that. And there's nothing springing to the top of my head. Yeah, being it's that way, it may be an issue with the actual AC select button. But I'm not sure how you would go about diagnosing that or how you would go about fixing it since it's part of the whole unit. I don't think you can get just that button. Short of, swapping your cluster out with a used one, and seeing how that works. I don't know that there's an easy way to check it. And Bear Tiger has it right. For auto trans problems, take it to an auto trans shop. That's pretty much how I feel about it. I'll do manual transmissions all day long, but autos, I don't like working on. Did one once, vowed never to do it again. To Restless Outdoors, I don't remember what year 100 series it was, but I also had the same issue looking for an earlier 100 series 7-pin adapter. And I ordered several online that said they fit it, and none of them did, like as far as plug and play went. And I want to say the Toyota one was discontinued. Uh, and I'm trying to remember. I don't remember how we ended up fixing it. We may not have ended up finding one, or we may have ended up just hardwiring one. It's been a couple years ago. I remember having trouble finding it, but I don't remember what we ended up doing. And to Dickie, I've never looked for one. You're not gonna want to buy one new if they're still, even if they're still available. It'd have to be finding one used, which is kind of what makes it a pain for as far as using it as a diagnostic. It's easy to get, to remove and replace. Finding one could be tricky though. And to Mark, how important is it to use premium gas in the 4.7? I don't know. I would check the owner's manual and see what it lists as the minimum octane. I don't think I've ever put gas in anything with a 4.7. So I've never paid attention to what they call for. Most of the Toyota stuff, seems happy with regular. I had an old Turbo Supra that only wanted premium or it would knock. And when it knocked, the knock sensors caught it and retarded the timing and pulled all the power out. Okay. But yeah, I've never filled up the 4.7, so I don't know. It tends to make a difference between, good grade gas and like, the bottom of the barrel stuff. At least as far as like in my Subaru, I can tell, when I've gotten Exxon versus when I've gotten fly-by-night gas. But yeah, it just depends. I'm sure that, they've adjusted the timing for it, so they want premium. But it's probably smart enough to know, like, if you put regular or mid in and it started knocking, the computer should retard the timing and keep it, safe and you'd not notice. But I don't know definitively. Like my little Subaru runs on, it calls for regular, but I run premium in it just because I get better gas mileage out of it and a little bit more pep. But a lot of stuff you don't get the extra advantage from premium over regular, unless it's tuned for it. And I feel your pain on tire carriers overseas versus bumper like the ARB. I'm in the same boat, and I'm likely going to order the 4x4 Labs weld it yourself kits to save money. Because I could build them from scratch at the shop, but I don't have the time, I don't have the time to build them. I'm assuming the rear tire carrier from overseas, you're talking about like the JDM one that actually mounts to the body as opposed to the bumper. I've only seen one. you're limited on those about, by how big of a tire you can put on it, since you're hanging it from the body. And you've got to do the reinforcements inside the body that our trucks didn't come with to take the weight. The ARB rear bumpers are wicked expensive. You can get, 4x4 Labs, Trail Taylor. There's a lot of other options out there. I like the ARB front bumpers, but I'm not a huge fan of their rears. You also look at, I'm not sure if they've got them up on the website yet, but Cruiser Brothers is starting to bring the Kmart stuff in. I don't know what the pricing's like on theirs, but they may be worth looking at as well. But yeah, bumpers with tire carriers get expensive quick. And it's already 7 o'clock. My wife just texted me that she's on her way home. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to jump off of here for the evening, feed the dogs, and start dinner for us. As always, thanks to everybody for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you really dig the videos, check out our Patreon page. The support is always appreciated, and the link is down in the description. But yeah, thanks to everybody for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next week. Yeah, we'll be here next week, but the 16th, there won't be chat because I'll be in Portugal. And I'm not doing live chat from vacation. So anyway, yeah, I'll catch you guys next week. Have a good evening.